Okay, so I've had the S26 Ultra for a little over a week now, and 5 days ago I was standing at a checkout line with a bunch of people lined up behind me, and this brand new 2,000 Australian dollar phone wouldn't let me pay for my groceries. That was the moment that I decided that I was going to return this phone, but now I'm not so sure. Let me explain. I really wanted to make the most of One UI and the whole Samsung ecosystem experience, so I transferred most of my cards to Samsung Wallet, which led me to being stuck at the checkouts. Look, for whatever reason, the app bugged out and I tried all the standard troubleshooting steps, but it wasn't until I restarted the phone I was able to unlock the cards and finally pay for my groceries. But in that moment, holding up a checkout line full of people with a brand new phone in my hand that couldn't do what my 4-year-old phone did flawlessly every day was pretty infuriating. That day, I ended up transferring all my cards back to Google Wallet, and I have to say it was pretty disappointing. But look, it's not all bad. Like, take the battery life for example. Insane is an absolute understatement. I didn't make any changes to the phone after I unboxed it, and that very night I charged it up to 100%. It got me through 2 days of use with 6 hours of on-screen time. Yes, the phone still has the same 5000 mAh battery as the last generation, but combining the new Snapdragon Elite 8 Gen 5 chip and better software programming has honestly made for great battery life. Look, coming from the Oppo Find X5 Pro, sure, the battery had degraded over the years, but even in the early days, I would barely get 1 day's worth of use. I never had more than 4 hours of screen on time with that phone, so this was very impressive. I have since changed some settings like increasing the screen's motion smoothness and resolution, turning on things like always on display, and I also changed a few camera and performance settings, and the battery life has fluctuated in a few days, but as recent as writing this script, I got 8 hours and 52 minutes of screen on time by the time the battery hit 2%, with mostly Instagram and YouTube being the main apps used. This is very impressive if you ask me. Okay, so Android Auto, now something that I've been using for years, have never really had a problem with it on the Oppo for the last 4 years. And what I originally planned to say in this part of the video was how it connected flawlessly, and aside from the first instance where there was a bit of audio cutting out issues and GPS lagging issues, and it was working fine since then. It was until today. So I head out today to meet a friend to pick up one of his computers, and along the way Android Auto just completely disconnected. So I pulled over when it was safe to do so, and I started troubleshooting a couple of basic things. The phone was giving an error to say check your ports or check your cables and try a different cable if you can. So, you know, I've got a few cables on hand, so I did exactly that, but again, it wasn't connecting at all. In fact, even still till now, like, I've got the phone, this is a third cable that it's plugged into, and there's nothing registering for Android Auto. I had turned the car on and off, I turned the phone on and off, and I still can't get it to connect to Android Auto. Actually, now that I'm saying that, it's flickering on there we go. It's random. So okay, so it's pretty random. So it's connecting and it's disconnecting. Now, I don't know exactly what's causing the issue. Like I said, I've tried 3 different cables, but I'll have to spend a little bit more time to figure this one out. Now, one of the things I was overwhelmed by when unboxing was the size of the phone. It looked a lot bigger than my Oppo, but really it was the flat edges of the phone that just made it look a lot bigger. And actually, it makes it harder to get a comfortable grip on the phone. I've had to start using 2 hands to operate the phone, number one, because of the size, but also the texture on the phone feels a little bit slippery, and I'm scared I'm gonna drop it. So that is something that you should definitely be careful of. Something else that I was super keen on was the S Pen. Now, what I'm about to say, I need to preface it by saying I knew what I was getting myself into, but I was still pretty upset. When testing the S Pen, I started to get alerts on the phone that magnet accessories are interfering with the S Pen. The magnet accessory in question is the Samsung Ultra thin magnet case. It's a genuine product. Now, a large part of why Samsung doesn't bake in their own version of magnets or MagSafe is because of the S Pen technology sensors. I knew this, but every time I got an alert of interruption with the S Pen, it was vexing. This is when I started to think that the S Pen's just a bit of a gimmick. When I took the case off the phone, the S Pen was performing almost the same, maybe a little bit more accurate, but nothing extreme so far. I kept using the S Pen, and now I'm actually finding myself pulling it out even just to scroll on Instagram. I tested it out with TeamViewer like I planned a few times, and that actually worked really well. And I also worked on a few Excel spreadsheets too. But one of the things that was a bit of a turning point for me, I've always wanted to keep a digital diary. I never did because I didn't want to sit down and type everything out, but now I'm able to actually do it with this phone because of the S Pen. I mean, look, I'm used to journaling with pen and paper, and it's only been a couple of entries in the phone, so I'm not sure that I am going to stick to it. But this did help me realize just how useful the S Pen can be, and it's made me want to use it more. Now, as far as the S26 Ultra Gem, the privacy display goes, there's good and there's bad. You can either block your whole display or just your floating notifications, or have it active for certain apps. The way that the tech works, half the screen's pixels have, let's call it a ring overlaying each pixel, and these rings prevent light from spreading in all directions. When you turn on privacy display, the pixels without the rings turn off. The pixels with the rings stay on, and it limits the viewing angles of the screen. And look, in person, it is not as drastic as it looks on camera, and that's the honest truth. If someone sits next to you, it will reduce what they can see, but it's not going to completely wipe it out, even in max mode. It's fine if you're in public places and you need to get some banking done, or if you need to send some private texts, but in my opinion, this isn't a feature that should be on all the time. It does reduce the display's brightness and overall resolution. I find that I'm trying to focus my eyes every time it turns on and off. The technology has actually visibly reduced the overall viewing angles of the screen as well, even with the privacy display being completely turned off. Comparing it side by side with my Oppo, you can see just how the viewing angles are much better on the Oppo. Now look, I'm not saying this is a bad feature. I actually think it's a very good feature, and it is useful, but for the right settings. It's probably one of the most innovative things to happen to smartphones in years, but it is still a first iteration of the technology, and I do hope to see it improve over time. And I know what you're gonna say. Just use a privacy screen protector. Bro, it's not the same thing. Like, those screen protector films are all crap and you know it. You can turn this feature on and off at will. Like, it doesn't even compare. Anyway, towards the end of this week, I've come to realize that the phone is super fast. The Snapdragon chip makes opening and loading apps noticeably quicker, and the upgraded vapor chamber is actually keeping the phone cool for everything that I've used it for. It did heat up a little while recording video, but compared that to my Oppo, that would heat up drastically even when just scrolling through social media, which I honestly didn't even realize until I got to comparing the two. During this week, I also tested out the cameras. When I first recorded during the unboxing, I didn't change any settings. It looked great on the phone when playing back, but it was pretty terrible in editing, almost like I had accidentally shot on log, but I checked and it wasn't. Then I had to start digging around and watch a few YouTube videos to actually learn how to use APV mode and the S26 Ultra LUTs. It is a multi-step process, so I'll write it down in the comments for you guys. Daytime photos and videos are definitely better than the Oppo. I did do a quick test walking around a little bit outside and recorded a few shots at a local dog park. I tested a few different modes, particularly no stabilization. I also walked around and recorded with the horizontal lock feature on, just to see how much of that motion it'll keep smooth. Comparing a panning shot in the setup, as you can see, the S26 Ultra does handle that a lot better. I tried the horizontal lock feature within the setup and panning the shot left to right within the space, and I was actually rotating the phone 180 degrees while I was trying this, so you can see that it does go up and down a little bit, but it's not jolting around or anything, so that was pretty impressive. I also took a few different selfies with the setup in the background with the Oppo and the S26 Ultra, and as you can see, it's like chalk and cheese. The S26 Ultra is miles better. So I put portrait mode to the test between both the Oppo and the S26 Ultra, using both Grogu and BB-8 over here. And as you can see, just zooming into BB-8's image, the Star Wars writing is a lot clearer on the S26 Ultra compared to the Oppo. However, when I took a photo of the setup and zoomed into the PS1 at the PlayStation logo, you can sort of see it's actually flipped the other way around. It looks as though the Oppo handled the clarity of that a little bit better than the S26, which I was pretty surprised about. But comparing the selfies that I took with the Oppo and the S26 Ultra, you can definitely see when zoomed into my eyebrows, for example, there's a lot more clarity with the S26 Ultra compared to the Oppo. Actually, I've got a full video planned for camera and battery performance, which is going to be on the channel in a few weeks. I'm going to spend a few days touring my own city right here in Sydney, and I know that a lot of you guys watching this are from other amazing parts of the world, so I thought that you might enjoy seeing a little bit of Sydney City. But yeah guys, that pretty much sums up what 1 week with the S26 Ultra has been like. I was honestly ready to return this phone. Like, Samsung wallet failing at the checkout, the S Pen interference warnings, the size and shape of it making me nervous to drop it, but after a week, I'm not ready to return it anymore. The battery life's insane, the phone is noticeably faster, and I want to experience more of One UI. And there's the S Pen. I want to see how much more I can do with that. I'm going to keep it, I'm going to continue using it, but I do need more time to know if it's worth 2,000 Australian dollars. The real test, it's going to come in the next few weeks. Anyways guys, that's it for this one. So be sure to keep an eye out for the camera and performance tests coming in a few weeks, and a 1-month review shortly after that. I'll be covering everything about the phone and what it's been like living with it every day. So if you do have any questions, drop them all in the comments below and I'll do my best to include them for you. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next week.